Hello everyone, and welcome back. Thearosen here yet again, and this time I'm going to be doing something a bit different than usual. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys the basics of how I play Leona. While I may not be a pro player, I do fairly well usually, and I've been asked on more than one occasion how I play and build her. So without much further wait, let's dive right on in. Leona's passive is Sunlight, and what it does is mark an enemy when hit by one of Leona's skills, marking them for a few seconds. When an allied champion hits a marked target, they consume the mark and deal additional magic damage. While this might not be something you focus on, or even plan for, it is useful during engages and teamfights. Leona's Q is Shield of Daybreak. This skill is an auto attack modifier that stuns an enemy for 1.25 seconds and deals magic damage. This skill is essential in Leona's kit and what makes her the CC tank that she is. A big way to use this is as an auto attack reset, which means you auto attack the enemy once and immediately activate your Q ability and it will instantly reset your auto attack, therefore increasing your damage output. This can be useful both defensively and offensively, and while it's very simple to use, you can get creative, so feel free to try to use it in different ways. Leona's W is Eclipse. This is what makes Leona the tank that everyone dreads. This skill grants a flat bonus to both magic resist and armor, while also scaling off of your current magic resist and armor for a total of 3 seconds. At the end of these 3 seconds, you explode, dealing damage to all enemies nearby. And then if an enemy is damaged, you actually retain your bonus magic resist and armor for another 3 seconds. Use this any and every time you engage. It will save you so often, I could swear you could say it's like Red Bull for college students. I will warn you though, that you need to time it right. If you do it too late, you'll take a lot of damage unnecessarily from the enemy's burst, and if you activate it too early, it will wear off quickly during the team fight, and you'll take a lot of auto attack damage and possibly skill reset damage. Beyond this, you might accidentally kill still your teammates off of this 3-second delay burst damage, so be careful and try to use it responsibly. Leona's E is Zenith Blade. It's a skill that has a straight line skill shot. You launch your blade forward and damage all enemies in a line. If an enemy champion is hit, you root them for a split second while pulling yourself to them. If you happen to hit more than one enemy champion at a time, you pull yourself to the last one your Zenith Blade hit. This skill is relatively easy to both use and land, but it can be really hard to use properly during a chaotic teamfight due to the uncontrollable nature of where everybody is running to. Though generally you do want to go ahead and aim for the enemy ADC, that way you can go ahead and lock them down and hopefully force the enemy team to collapse on you, the tank, so your team can tear through them while their focus is distracted. Now, we come to the part where you praise the sun. Leona's ultimate skill is Solar Flare. It is a circular skill shot with a small delay before it lands, and it has a nice sized area of effect so it's not relatively hard to hit. Enemies hit by Solar Flare are slowed by 80% for a second and a half, and anyone who happens to be caught in the middle of this effect are instead stunned for the duration. This skill will completely turn around a teamfight if you use it right. You can shut down holdback lines, you can slow or stun the enemy ADC that's cutting on the outskirts of a fight. There's a whole bunch of different uses for it, honestly, and how you use a skill will define who you are as a Leona player, good or bad. Thankfully, it does have a relatively short cooldown of a minute and a half at the first rank, 75 seconds at the second rank, and only a minute long cooldown at max rank. So don't be afraid to use this skill if you think it will help in any fight. You will normally want to rank up your skills in a certain order. You will normally take your Q at level 1, your E at level 2, and then your W at level 3. This of course can change at any time depending on the game and the situation you are in, and after this you want to go ahead and max your W first, then between your E and Q will depend on the enemy and the situation. If they have a lot of mobility or range poke, you want to go ahead and max your E first, but if they are mostly melee or have a lot of melee engage, then Q is normally the best idea. For Leona's masteries, I go with a mix between defense and utility, split 0, 13, 17. This gives me the edge to tank early game as well as give me the support needed from the utility tree. Feel free to go ahead and pause the video to create your own mastery page to mimic my own. Onto runes. For this I go mostly tanky, with my quints being for gold income due to lack of gold iconic to the support role. I go for full flat armor, but for magic resist I split it between flat and scaling magic resistance to give me an edge in late game where you're most likely building armor over magic resistance with the current metas. Now on to the item build. This is a hard topic to go into details for a brief summary rather than an entire in-depth guide. You will of course go ahead and start off with support items such as Relic Shield and Warding Totem. You will want to rush your Relic Shield into a Targon's Wraith as soon as possible for the extra HP and gold it will provide. After this, you'll either want to rush Boots or Sightstone depending on the situation, and don't forget to go ahead and buy yourself some Vision Wards, especially if they have a Stealth champion. And once you go ahead and get your Sightstone, you want to trade out your Warden Totem for a Sweeping Lens to cancel out the enemy vision in key areas such as Dragon or Baron. This is pretty basic and supporting in general, so I won't go into depth in the subject as to how to go ahead and ward and counter ward. Once you have your key item, the build varies entirely based on the enemy team, where you want to focus on building the most resistance, armor or magic resist, depending on their team comp. But keep in mind you don't want to build armor even if 4 of them are 80 if they're going 0 and 10, but their AP champion is going 24 and 0. Instead, build a counter the main damage harassment, which would be their AP, so you can shut them down. Key items for this are things like Sunfire Cape, and if you don't go ahead and get yourself a Sunfire Cape, don't bother playing Leona, you heretic. Beyond that, items such as Locket of the Iron Solari, Thornmeal, Guardian's Angel, etc., etc. And remember to go ahead and buy HP items as well, because no matter how high your resistance is, you'll need health, otherwise you'll get melted regardless. And items like Sunfire Cape and Warmog's Armor and Banshee's Veil will help you out for what you need there. Now, about how to play. Early game, you won't bring a whole lot to a game other than some hard CC, which normally isn't a whole lot for ADCs to go ahead and secure a kill at this point, and you will most likely get poked and harassed a lot by the enemy ADC and possibly their support depending on who they're playing, such as Karma. Here in the early game, you want to go ahead and play as a defender and peel any attempts to poke your ADC by punishing the enemy when they overstep. Beyond this, keep an eye on your Relic Shield or Torgon's Brace to maximize its use by recovering ADC HP and get yourself your gold for both you and the ADC. As well as, if possible, just be pushy and use your W to poke the enemy while whittling down the minions near you so your ADC can secure some CS. Into middle game, when you get rolling, if your ADC isn't bad, of course, you'll be able to secure CS and get yourself your Targon's Brace. You'll want to get pushy and punish the enemy for slight mistakes, because you'll be able to burst them by roughly a third of their health, while only taking about a fifth of your health as damage in return, allowing you to go ahead and properly harass them and possibly secure a kill. And this is the point where you should be getting your ultimate secure kills for your ADC as well as prevent ganks. For this, you're going to always go ahead and pay attention to map, note MIAs from middle and top lane, as well as always try to keep an eye open to see where the jungle is. That way you can see if they're possibly trying to work their way down to gank your lane. The middle game is where you will get most of your gold income, so don't be afraid to die if it gets your ADC a double or even a triple if the enemy attempts to gank. The assist gold will be worth it, as well as letting your ADC push the lane. Into the end game, you'll just be a big tank that nobody wants to deal with. Honestly, by now, as long as you're playing your character correctly, the enemy will have learned to fear you, because you're tanky enough to die with no problem. Your CC can easily secure kills for your team, and if you played really well, you can scare entire groups of enemies, because they don't know whether or not if you're solo or not, and if they see you, they might be thinking that your team is following you up, even if you are alone. And always, even the late game, go ahead and ward and counter ward, because even though you are the big scary tank, you still are the support, so it's your job to give your team the vision as well as remove the enemy team's vision. And there you have it, guys. That's the basics of how I play Leona. I hope you enjoyed and have learned a bit. With this guide, as well as watching my videos, you should have a good idea of how Leona handles and how you go ahead and counter build the enemy, as well as learning the basics of support itself, such as when and where to ward and counter ward. Go ahead and game on, and stay classy.